Mary Breckinridge and the Nursing Frontier by Chloe Ralston. Mary Breckinridge was born in Memphis, Tennessee on February 17, 1881. She was born into a wealthy and influential family. Overall, her family was predominant in the political community. Her father served in Congress as a representative from Arkansas, but also a minister to Russia and a commissioner of Indian Affairs. This connected her to many different parts of the world, many people that had influence. She spent her childhood traveling between Russia and the U.S. due to her father's connections. Moving on in life, just as any other normal girl, at 23, she later married her first husband, who then died a couple years later due to appendicitis. Mary then began her nursing journey. Breckinridge ended up devoting her life to the services of children and mothers to better improve their healthcare and healthcare opportunities. As for Mary Breckinridge's early education and young adult life, she began school at St. Luke Hospital for Nursing, graduating in 1910. And in 1912, she married her second husband and started teaching at a women's school regarding French and hygiene until her son was born in 1914. She then retired with plans to be a wife and a mother. But 2 years later, she gave birth again to a baby girl who died within hours. Later on in 1918, her son passed away at the age of 4. Then following that, her marriage fell apart and she left her ex-husband. With all of these things, it led her to her passion for improving conditions for children within healthcare. She then followed all of this, beginning work as a public health nurse. Mary then found her new home in Kentucky, where she would begin working in 1925. The timeline as follows Mary Breckinridge's early life. She started at Luke's Hospital in 1910, remarried in 1912 with a divorce by 1920. Then she earned a midwife certificate from the British Hospital for Mothers and Babies in London. Following that, in 1925, she created the Kentucky Committee for Mothers and Babies. By 1928, she has renamed the Frontier Nurse to the Frontier Nursing Service. Mary Breckinridge noted, start quote, "Midwives were not nurses in America. Nurses were not midwives in England. Trained women were both nurses and midwives," end quote. In her schooling, she had a project at Teachers College at Columbia University. She surveyed one of America's most poverty-stricken regions in eastern Kentucky, at the Appalachian Mountains. She began alone on horseback, riding trails for hours in isolated areas, where they called the mountain people who so lived. She was welcomed during her time and started to openly discuss the lack of health care and access to health care in the area. She learned that the maternal death rate was extremely high, that for every 100,000 births, over 800 resulted in death. Mary Breckinridge devoted the majority of her time to the mothers and babies in the area of the Appalachian Mountains, whether this was prenatal, postnatal, or during their pregnancy process. In Hyden, Kentucky, started the Frontier Nursing Service, which was the first one in America to employ nurse midwives. The frontier nurses rode on horseback throughout the mountains. This aroused many problems within the mountains due to the isolation that people experienced. They were unable to get to doctors, unable to get to nurses, which in the end led to many deaths of mothers and babies. This caused them, after the delivery, to not have the access they needed to move forward, nor the resources during the delivery, due to not being able to travel any way but horseback through the mountains. Funding for the Frontier Nursing Service, the charge was $1 per year and $5 per childbirth. but if the family was not able to pay, they would barter. This would be a meal, a good, or a service. If the family was not able to pay, and it was absolutely impossible for them to give something else, all of the frontier nursing service ended up working for free. Mary worked to get support from the public and raise money, where she eventually, with her connections, raised a couple million of dollars. Breckinridge started a few different programs within her time. It began with the Visiting Nursing Program. It later led to the Frontier Nursing Service, which then began the Frontier Nursing University. It eventually turned into the Frontier Graduate School of Midwifery. In addition, it is still in operation today, but it has become known as the Frontier Nursing University. It is extremely important to highlight one huge stat that came from these nurses' impact. They delivered over 14,000 babies with only 11 maternal deaths, which is a huge change from the original stats in the Appalachian Mountains. As we flash forward to later years of her life, in 1939, the Frontier Nursing Graduate School was established and they began to teach midwifery. Due to the desire that Breckinridge had to transform children and women's health care, led to much of what nursing is today, especially when dealing with prenatal delivery and postnatal health care. As for a timeline of her later life, when she established in 1939 the first ever school in America to teach midwifery. She continued working there until she later died in 1965. Breckinridge was a leader and a healthcare role model, and she changed the trajectory of nursing from her point on.